Hey guys, welcome. This is Brad Krantz. Thanks so much for joining me here today. My Monday morning leadership. I'm going to talk about 10 leadership characteristics. You know, there's research done and it's been found that great leaders consistently possess these 10 core leadership skills. So what are they? First and foremost is integrity. And I think, that's the importance. I think the importance of it should be obvious, but that's why integrity is the cornerstone of leadership, right? Because you have to be a person of your word, let your yes be yes, let your no be no, mean what you say what you mean. But integrity, I think, is really the baseline for all leadership. You have to be a person of your word. You have to be truthful. You have to be honest. You have to display integrity. So that's first and foremost. And then we've got the ability to delegate. Delegating is kind of one of the core responsibilities of a leader, and it can be a bit tricky to delegate effectively. And some of it comes down to, I think, self-image of the leader, because your goal is, and my goal as a leader is, I want to empower others. And one of the ways you really do that is delegating. Let people take on responsibility. Let people take a leadership role. And it's empowering if you let people do that, but you have to be self-aware enough, but secure in who you are, confident enough in yourself to be able to let people do that. And then we got communication, right? Effective leadership and effective communication kind of go hand in hand, right? And here's why. As a leader, you've got to be able to listen to somebody and you've got to have empathy. And I think these two are integrally linked, right? First, to be able to really listen, to hear somebody, hear what they're saying, understand where they're coming from, you have to have empathy. You have to have a certain amount of ability to, see things through their eyes, to be, walk in their shoes, that type of thing. So I really think for effective communication, yes, you have to have it, but you've got to really be able to listen. You have to have empathy for the people or the persons that you are talking to for it to really be effective. And then there's self-awareness. We get into emotional IQ here. This is more of an inwardly focused skill. Self-awareness really is critical for leadership. The better you understand yourself, the more effective you can be, right? Do you know how other people view you? And I think a lot of people, they don't take enough time to be self-aware, to know how they come across, how other people see them. But that is a skill, and it's also a critical skill, is self-awareness. And then we've got gratitude, right? Being thankful can make you a better leader, right? But having an attitude of gratitude, not one of entitlement. You're not entitled to something. You are grateful for what you have, and you need to learn how to give thanks and practice more gratitude toward those you lead. And that's going to help you be a good leader. That's why this is on the list. Learning agility is really learn how to give thanks and practice more gratitude in the workplace, but being able to really kind of think on your feet, or to have street smarts. And I guess I'd give an example of this is what happened with, or still going on with, COVID-19 last year. It required people to pivot and to adapt, right? We hadn't been through this before. There wasn't a manual on how to get through this. So this required some street smarts, thinking on your feet. A lot of people end up getting on Zoom and that. But that's also a good characteristic of a leader, is learning agility. Are you able to think on your feet, or do you just kind of have to go, round peg and round hole, square peg and square hole? So I think that's really a critical one here. And then we get into influence. And for some people, influence feels like a dirty word, and it shouldn't. I don't really like to use the phrase, but being able to convince people through logical, emotional, or cooperative appeals is a component of being an inspiring and effective leader, right? But we all know leadership is influence, but influence is quite different from manipulation. I've talked about this before. Leadership is influence, but that can be good or bad influence. We are talking positive, good influence here, but it needs to be done authentically and transparently. And then again, we're back to number one, aren't we? Integrity. You have to have integrity in influencing somebody. You're not trying to manipulate them. And again, we're going to get a little bit of authenticity and transparency here too, but those are critical to go with that. And I'm kind of back on it again, but empathy comes up, and that's correlated with, job, team, or business performance. And it's a critical part of the emotional intelligence and leadership effectiveness, right? And empathy can be learned, and in addition to make you more effective, it will also improve the environment for you and those around you. Again, you need to be able to understand where your people, their employees, team members, business partners, whatever, you need to be able to understand where they're coming from. And empathy is really critical. It's one of the I call it core attributes of servant leadership. So really kind of meshing leadership into servant leadership, but I think empathy is really, really critical. I've seen that that's a skill sometimes in short supply, but it's really, really critical if you want to be an effective leader. And then we can talk about courage. Okay, it can be hard to speak up in situations, right? Sometimes I don't want to speak up, whether you want to voice a new idea, or provide some feedback, or to a direct report or flag a concern from someone above you. That's part of the reason courage is a key skill for good leaders. It's not avoiding problems, right? That's pretending something isn't going on or bury your head in sand is not an effective way. Again, getting back to communication, you can kind of see how some of these are interwoven here, but you have to have courage to confront things. I call it what Jack Welch says, you got to basically deal with reality as it is, not as you wish it was or hope it to be. But again, part of courage is facing problems head on, deal with a tough situation. You tackle it again through effective communication, listening, and having empathy. And then we get to respect, right? RESPECT. Treating people with respect on a daily basis is one of the most critical things a leader can do, I think. Respect is more than the absence of disrespect, too. We want to note that. It requires, and I'm going to go back to what I already said, both listening and empathy. I think really to respect someone, you have to like them, and you can't see yourself as being above them or superior to them and that they're inferior. So respect, again, really requires listening and empathy, but knowing where you're at as a person and who they are, basically treating everybody as fellow human beings, but on the same level, right? We're all humans. So you don't have an attitude of superiority, which unfortunately happens in a lot of business situations, boss, employee, and I tell you what to do, you better do it, that type of thing. But this is really critical, guys, respect, okay? And so all successful leaders may exhibit these 10 leadership skills to varying degrees. And I'd say this is not a wish list. It's really something we need to be aware of as leaders to be good leaders. But good leaders leverage at least some, if not most of these characteristics. So, we're always working on this, right? Through personal development, and that we're always striving, but we're always pushing, right? We never quite get there. It's like it's a journey. So the journey to being an effective leader is what you're after. And without these skills, though, true leadership, I think, is really impossible, right? I mean, which one would you take out? But I'm going to ask two questions here in closing is which of these 10 characteristics are you best at? Or maybe which one resonates to you most? And then which of these characteristics do you need to work on most? I'd love to get your feedback, comments on this, input. What would you like? I hope it added some value to you today, guys. As always, please feel free to connect with me on social media. And I want to wish you an awesome Monday going forward in the week. Okay. Bye-bye.